Welcome, everyone, to Couch Potato Diary. My name is Peter Klein. Thank you very much for tuning in today. I know I said at the end of the show on Monday that we'll be back tomorrow, but in full disclosure, I've been recording a bunch of these before I go off on vacation and kind of just running out of time. So combining two episodes into one on this one today. We are going to look at what I'm worried I'm wrong about, and we are going to look at playoffs in and out, and then we'll get right into the American League win total projections for the upcoming season, and then my World Series picks. So this is the last new one in terms of recording baseball previews here today. Quickly letting you know, Sea of Dead 403.ca, that great Calgary swag. Celebrate the start of the baseball season with some Cannon stuff. Why not? Also, get that fuel in you with Swift Energy. Use the code PK Primetime for 25% off. SwiftEnergy.gg. So we got some baseball previewing to do. Let's roll with it and look at what I'm worried I'm wrong about going into the season. The Major League Baseball season is just about upon us, and we have been previewing it for basically a month now. There's going to be some things I don't get right, but some I'm kind of anticipating a little bit more than others. So here is what I'm worried I'm wrong about going into the 2025 baseball season. The first one, how good the rotations are in Arizona and Seattle. I think both staffs are fantastic and put their teams in really good spots. If there is a fall off from either of those staffs, or if their lineup isn't just not savable, I guess, in any stretch, then I'm going to be quite wrong on both of those teams, and that could shift a few things in both the American and National League. But I just think with the high-end talent both pitching staffs have, Arizona, I have more confidence that they can hit more than Seattle can, but either way, that there is a lot of pressure on both of these teams for me to be right, but also just the pitching staffs I think really need to step up. On the opposite side of that, I'm worried that I'm wrong about Baltimore. I think that this offseason is really going to haunt them. I think that getting worse is not what you want to be, even when you have some exciting young talent that is probably, that their progression is probably going to offset some of the losses that you have. I just don't think that they can do that in the pitching rotation. And so I feel like they wasted opportunity this offseason, and they have some very talented guys. And if Jackson Holliday takes a big step and Gunnar Henderson just stays awesome along with Adley Rutschman, then maybe it doesn't matter how much they pitch. And this offense just carries them to a American League East title. I am worried that I'm overstating how much of a wasted opportunity this offseason was and how much it's going to hurt them. Another one that I'm worried about is just the AL Central, just in general. I don't think that Cleveland and Kansas City can repeat what they did a season ago. I don't think they can do that again. I think Detroit at least has a little bit more sustainability. I think they have the best team in that division, but I don't think Kansas City did not bolster this team in any way. And Cleveland, we know how they got there last year with a very, very good bullpen, but I don't think they're going to be able to hit enough, and I don't think the starting staff is going to be good enough to get them beyond that spot. But the reason I'm worried I'm wrong about this is we literally saw it last year, and we saw that it could work. I just feel like more of baseball and more in the American League is a lot better around them. And because of that, I think that there is going to be a falling off from both of those teams, but I could absolutely be wrong on that. And just that the pitching is not as bad as I think it is out in Kansas City, and maybe they get a little bit more offense than I think, and Cleveland gets a lot better pitching than I think, and a little bit better offense than I think they're going to get, and that powers them to another playoff spot. So I'm worried I'm going to be wrong on that one as well. And then Pittsburgh's breakout being a year away still. I still think they need more talent, but I could be wrong on that. Maybe the pitching staff just overall is better than I think it is behind the scenes, and maybe the offense steps up in a way that I am not necessarily anticipating. And so because of that, I am, and again, that division's wide open, so it might not even take a big step forward for me to be wrong on the Pittsburgh Pirates this year, which terrifies me when we're making predictions like that. So those are the things that I'm worried I'm wrong about in Major League Baseball this year. Now let's go to in and out for the Major League Baseball playoffs. I know we all would like to think that progression is linear, and playoff teams that made it last year can very easily make it again this year, but that's not always the case. And so I'm looking at 3 teams to fall out, which means I'm looking at 3 new teams to get into the playoff picture this year. Let's take a look, shall we? Ta-da. Thought the intro was longer there. These are the baseball teams that I think are going to fall out of the playoff race from last season. We'll begin with the National League Central champion Milwaukee Brewers. I just think they keep getting better. And I don't see how they are better than the Cubs this year. Sorry, they just keep getting worse, is what I meant to say. And I don't see how they beat out the Cubs this year. And then I certainly don't see how they compete for a wild card spot in baseball this season. I just think each offseason, they just get a little bit worse and a little bit worse and a little bit worse. And that is not how you sustain things in a division where a couple of teams got, I think, better. I feel like Milwaukee falls out. And then we just talked about it in the Worried I'm Wrong, but it's Cleveland and it's Kansas City. Cleveland, it's a wild ride that got them to the American League Championship Series a season ago. I don't think any aspect of their team is playoff ready aside from a really good bullpen. So I don't think that this team has what it takes in a more competitive American League this season. And Kansas City, I don't think they did enough with a team that was fringe anyway, and a lot of good teams getting better. I feel like Kansas City, even if a couple of their guys have a better season, they could just in totality have a better season and lose more games because of the improvements that have been made in the American League. So I think they are the team, or one of the teams, that falls out. Now, for the teams that get into the playoffs, we'll start with the one that takes Milwaukee's place. It's Arizona. I just think the Diamondbacks with Burns, the starting rotation got a lot stronger. And so I think that they are a team getting into the playoffs in the National League this year. Obviously, it's not a straight line taking Milwaukee's spot, but I just think they're the best candidate to move into a playoff spot in the National League. In the American League, two teams falling out, so two teams got to go in, and they're both from different divisions than the two teams that we have falling out in Cleveland and Kansas City. Boston, I just think that the rotation additions they made are so strong, and that is going to be able to, with a good offense that they have, be able to get this team back into playoff contention. And we talked about it in the Worried I'm Wrong, but I'm putting a lot of chips in on Seattle this year. With the pitching staff that they have, I think Julio Rodriguez can step up and be an all-star caliber player again. And I just think that with the pitching rotation should get them into a playoff spot. So those are my MLB playoffs in and out. Now it is time to kind of put the money where the mouth is. It is time to preview the American League, looking at the win totals as set by Las Vegas, Nevada. It's time for our American League season preview. Didn't get me that time. The baseball season is just, it started, but for the American League, just hours away at this point. So we're going to run through the win-loss projections from Vegas for every team in the American League this year. We're going to do it by division, and we're going to do it in order of how I see them finishing. So we'll begin with the Yankees at the top of the American League East. They have enough depth on offense. They lost Soto, but added, I think, quite a bit. You have a pitching rotation that can be really dangerous if everyone is healthy, and they really improved that bullpen. So I just think every aspect of this team is complete. I think they get comfortably, honestly, over 91.5 wins this season. And I think that they are going to be aggressive in trying to address any issues that may arise for this team. The Boston Red Sox are second. If that rotation can hold up this year, then this is a really, really good baseball team, and one that I think gives the Yankees a lot of real pressure. If Crochet is awesome, if Buehler can be a bit of a Yankee killer like he was in the playoffs, and if Bregman still has a good year out in Boston, then this is a dangerous, dangerous Red Sox team. So I have them over 86.5. The Orioles, we talked about them in Worried I'm Wrong. I don't love the rotation. This is such a talented lineup, but that rotation against an improved all-around Yankees lineup, an improved Red Sox lineup, a Jays lineup that you have to assume is going to be better this year. I just don't think this team gets to the 90-win mark. And so their win total is 87.5. I think they go under it. Not substantially, but I think they go under that. The Toronto Blue Jays, their total is at 78.5. I have them going over. I think that they are going to be desperate. I think they'll be a team that will be adding at the deadline. And so I think that gets them above 500 going into throughout this season. The Tampa Bay Rays. I know they're the Rays, but they're going to be playing basically the whole season on the road. And we saw with the Blue Jays in the pandemic seasons that's just very difficult to deal with. So I think Tampa Bay takes a pretty big step back this year at under 81.5. 84.5. Let's go to the Central, the Detroit Tigers. I think there's actually quite a bit of talent on this team. I don't think they sell 2 years in a row if they're close at the deadline, and I think they're the most talented team in the American League Central. So I have them going over 83.5. The Twins totals at 84.5. I have them going over as well. I think they have a few guys who will have some bounce back seasons this year, and they'll be able to kind of squeak over that number. Kansas City, I just don't think they did enough to add to what was a fringe playoff team a season ago, and only a fringe playoff team because the competition was a bit down in the American League. I think some of those teams are on the rise, and I just think Kansas City falls behind, so I have them under 83.5. I think the Cleveland Guardians also go under 82.5. I just don't think they can replicate what they did a season ago. I think they are primed for quite a few steps back, and I don't see this being a very threatening team in the Central at all. And then the White Sox are just a really bad baseball team, and they're probably going to get worse as the season goes on. So any number you could have put out there, I would have gone under. 53.5 is really low, and I think they clear it. Out west, the Seattle Mariners. I have them winning the division with over 84.5 wins. I love the rotation. I think Julio Rodriguez has a bounce back year, and I think they get to a very good baseball team this season. I think it all kind of rounds into form for Seattle this year, so I like them over 84.5. The Houston Astros, I have them under 87.5. Again, it's a good team. It's not a great team. And I think there's a couple of teams that improve in the American League this year that, again, push the Astros down a little bit further and a little bit further. Texas Rangers, they're a good team. And so I have them going over 87.5 wins. They had some injuries last year. I think they bounce back, and I think they cause a lot of chaos in the National League West, in the American League West. I think they're going to give Seattle a real run for their money, and Houston a real run for their money. And then you get the two other teams in this division. You have the Angels at 71.5. I think they get a little bit healthier and maybe a little bit better and surprise some teams. So I do think they actually clear 71.5. And then the Athletics. Again, it's a full season on the road, basically. I think it's going to be tough. I think they did a good job adding, but not this good of a job. I think this is still a team that loses 100 games this year. So I have them under 71.5. So now, what does that mean for my playoff picture? It means I have the Yankees and Mariners getting the bye through the wild card round. In the wild card round, I have Detroit taking on the Baltimore Orioles, and I have Boston taking on the Texas Rangers. Coming out of that, I have Baltimore against Seattle in the American League Division Series, and Boston against New York in the other ALDS. Going to the ALCS, I have the Yankees taking on the Seattle Mariners. I just think that pitching staff is enough to get them through, but it's chalky, and I understand it's chalky. I have the Yankees winning. So again, it's the World Series that Fox will drool over. Yankees, Dodgers, and it goes the same way. The Dodgers are just the most complete team in all of baseball right now. I don't see them doing anything that would have them falling off and not be the favorites to win the World Series. So they are my World Series pick for 2025. I understand it is boring. I just can't go against what I think will actually happen. So that is it for the MLB season preview this year. Thank you guys so much for hanging out throughout all these preview episodes as we've been kind of rolling through them, and I've been powering through them before going on vacation. By the time you're hearing this, I'm going to be heading back. And so, maybe not right away at the start of next week, but by next week, we'll be back to some live episodes here. So make sure you hit that notification bell if you're listening, if you're watching on YouTube, because we're going to start going live on YouTube here. So that's, it's going to be a lot of fun. Very excited to kind of piece it all together and how that's all going to work. We're presented by Sea of Dead. Check out seaofdead403.ca for that great Calgary swag. Swift Energy helps fuel this show. Go to swiftenergy.gg and use the code PKPrimetime for 25% off. Major League Baseball preview, done and dusted. It's all in the playlist here. Might have a mega episode out by the time you're hearing this for tomorrow. We'll see, kind of running out of time, I'll be honest, to piece everything together. But either way, thank you guys so much for hanging out throughout all of these. If you're watching on YouTube, give it a like, give it a subscribe. Let me know how much you disagree with all my predictions as the baseball previews come to an end here. If you're listening in podcast form, give us a rating, give us a review, give us a subscribe or a follow or whatever your podcast catcher lets you do. I would really appreciate it as we try to grow this thing one more time. Thank you guys so much for hanging out today. I'll be back North American side next week. So thank you guys so much. Have a great rest of your week. Enjoy the baseball, and we'll be back again soon.